Okay, I'm here today to introduce plastic pollution about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Plastic is a synthetic material made from polymers, which are long chains of repeating units. It's super versatile and used everywhere because it's cheap, durable, and it can be molded into pretty much everything. However, the durability becomes a huge problem when plastic ends up in the ocean. Unlike natural materials, plastic doesn't biodegrade easily. Instead, it breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces called microplastics. Marine animals can mistake these plastics for food, leading them to malnutrition, poisoning, and even death. Larger plastic debris can also entangle animals, causing them to drown or starve. Additionally, plastics can leach harmful chemicals into the water, further damaging marine ecosystems and potentially entering the food chain. Here are some listed facts. While whales are feeding, they open their mouths and suck up anything that is in their path. This is bad for them if they are in an environment where they usually hunt, because they are digesting plastics that can be severe in the most cases, leading to death. So the main idea of the story is that the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is like this huge collection of plastic and trash in the Pacific Ocean, estimated to be twice the size of Texas. It harms marine life through entanglement, ingestion, and toxic chemicals. It is a stark reminder of how our waste impacts the ocean. When marine life eats plastic, it's chemicals like BPA and something chemical wise, it disrupts hormones affecting growth and reproduction. These toxins accumulate up the food chain, harming larger predators and disrupting ocean ecosystems. When it comes to the food chain and food industry, plastic pollution is often defined as the accumulation of plastic waste in the ocean, which can occur through various means. It is crucial to understand that plastic pollution poses a significant threat to marine ecosystems due to the harmful chemicals contained in plastics. As these materials break down, they create microplastics, which are inadvertently ingested by marine life. This exposes these organisms to toxic substances and leads to the mistaken identification of plastics as food, contributing to the decline of marine populations. According to an article by Ocean Cleanup, it is estimated that 1.15 to 2.41 million tons of plastic are entering the oceans each year from rivers. Plastic that floats is designed to be more resilient against drowning and is propelled by currents, ultimately contributing to the accumulation of the garbage patches in the ocean. These plastics are unlikely to move or leave the patch until they degrade into smaller microplastics under the effects of the sun, waves, and marine life. Fact. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch covers an estimated surface of 1.6 million square kilometers. This is the story on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch isn't actually an island made of trash. It is a huge area in the North Pacific Ocean packed with floating plastic junk. Ocean currents, mainly the North Pacific Gyre, pulling this waste into a swirling mess. Since most plastics float and break down super slowly, they can stay in this spot for years. And it only keeps going and getting bigger as more plastic ends up in the oceans every day. now to hear from some people who have certain degrees in science teaching, biology, environmental, zoology, and everything else here at Urbana High School. Alrighty, hello, my name is Robert Reichert and I am here with my former teacher, Mr. Birdsley. I'm here today to spread awareness about plastic pollution.
My name is Jeff Birdsley, and I'm a teacher at Urbana High School. I teach biology and anatomy, physiology, and general biology. I have a PhD in biology from Michigan State University, and I've taught college classes at Michigan State, Florida State, and University of Illinois before coming to Urbana High School.
Okay, that's really great, Mr. Birdsley. What is your reaction to hearing about the size and impact of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch?
My reaction is that it's incredible that way out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you can jump into the water with a mask on and see small floating particles throughout the water column, way out in the Pacific. So if that's the case, then it sort of doesn't matter where you are on our planet, you're going to encounter these plastics. After most of a century of manufacturing plastics, they're everywhere, and we just need to figure out how bad it is for human life and other life on Earth.
What would you say to someone who doesn't believe plastic pollution is a serious issue?
I think if someone doesn't believe it's a serious issue, I would tell them the most recent research indicates that you have a plastic spoon in your brain. A plastic spoon weighs about 7 grams, and research published just a few months ago, early in the year 2025, it's hot off the press, they're finding on average humans have today about 7 grams of microplastics in their brains. So it's a plastic spoon that's obviously broken down into micro particles, but that appears to be the average amount in the brain of people alive today.
How do you think individuals can spread awareness about plastic pollution and its impact on marine life?
Okay, specifically with marine life, we can start by analyzing their brains and other organs and tissues and comparing it to ours. So if the marine animals have significantly more plastics in their brains and other organs than humans, people are generally concerned about what humans have, and if they hear that there's significantly more in those marine animals because of the habitats they live in. They live in liquid with microparticles suspended in it. That's how they can get concerned about plastics ending up in the ocean and concerned about marine life. No human wants microplastics in their own body, and if you point out, well, our marine creatures are getting a lot more of it, so that should be concerning as well.
And for one of the final questions I have, what alternative materials or practices would you like to see replace single-use plastics?
I think there's been progress made on making compostable products that are more biodegradable, but they function like plastics. They're lightweight. You can make plastic forks and spoons. They're not really plastic. I don't know. The compostable ones, I don't know if they qualify as plastic or being a composite of some other kind of thing. But that's the way to go. If these things are going to be broken down and consumed and not become plastic pollution, that's what we need to do. Whether it's straws, plastic forks and spoons, and other things like that.
And for my final question of today, what would you say to someone who doesn't believe plastic pollution is a serious issue?
Again, I'll have to reiterate, the most recent research came out this year, 2025. On average, humans have 7 grams of microplastics, and that's just in their brains. That's not even adding up what's in their other organs, just in their brains. 7 grams is the equivalent of a plastic spoon. And I think to grab people's attention, you got to lead with that, and that gets their attention.
Alrighty, well, you heard it from Mr. Birdsley himself. Hello, guys. So, you're here today with me, Robert, and I am here today with my teacher, Miss Ehrlich. And today we are going to be talking about an environmental final that I'm researching upon on plastic pollution and the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Today I will be asking some questions, and I will be getting my teacher's opinion on them.
My name is Ashton Ehrlich. I am a high school teacher. I have a bachelor's of science in science with earth science specialization and an endorsement in secondary education.
Thank you for sharing. So with number 1, if I had to ask, what is your reaction to hearing about the size and impact of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch?
It was one of those, when I first kind of heard about it a little bit in college, we didn't think too much of it, but then, we started doing a little bit of research in one of my human impacts classes, and, we were starting to talk about, it's, bigger than the state of Texas, and it kind of gave us, a perspective of that as we're kind of, started looking at maps and things like that, and we realized, wow, that is quite big, and, ever since then, we know that it has been expanding as more and more plastics are being used, so it is definitely something that is quite alarming and concerning, especially when you do even more research to kind of see what that really looks like at the location, because sometimes it was referred to as garbage island, and so when you think about an island, it's like a solid surface, and that's not what this is that it's like this area in the ocean with pollution and plastics that just kind of permeate near the top. So the more research I did into it in college, it was quite alarming.
What would you say to someone who doesn't believe plastic pollution is a serious issue?
I think they need to kind of take a step back and really look at how plastics are impacting human health. More and more research is coming out with where we are finding plastics, even within humans themselves. On average, we consume about, I think it's like a credit card's worth of plastic a week. And when people are thinking about that, they're like, I'm not eating plastic. And it's not plastic like you're just grabbing a credit card and eating it. It's all these little microplastics that are finding their way into fruits and vegetables and our water supply. And so we don't even know that we're taking them in. So it is definitely an issue that we need to be more aware of, so that way we can try to figure out what are some things that we can do to combat this, because it's this silent problem that's kind of growing because we don't see it with our eyes because you can't see those microplastics.
How can schools and communities better educate people about the dangers of plastic waste?
I think for starters, when I think about my kind of journey into really understanding some of the different impacts and things like that, I went to Eastern Illinois University, and one of the things that they used to do around campus to try to bring awareness to global issues like that, they used to do like recycling wars on campus to try to like drive up enthusiasm about doing recycling that are there. And I think that's one of the things that schools can do is you can bring awareness, but also trying to find a way to make it fun at the same time, because sometimes just that little bit of competition like really kind of brings some people into like what you're trying to get across, and then maybe it'll sink in a little bit.
What alternative materials or practices would you like to see replacing these plastics?
The biggest thing that we kind of see would be a lot of like your to-go items. So when you think about if you go pick up food, you get a plastic cup, plastic straws. We see the to-go containers either are styrofoam or tend to be plastic as well. So maybe seeing some of those containers maybe be more like compostable, I think could be one way that we could kind of look at that, but find other incentives. Really, before COVID, you had Starbucks that, if you brought in one of their cups, they gave you a discount on their product. So maybe seeing companies kind of bring some of those incentives back to help kind of reduce how many single-use plastics that they are given out.
How do you think individuals can help spread awareness about plastic pollution and its impact on marine life?
I think some of it is just simple conversations that you can have. Just talking about what you notice about the world around you, what you see with some different things. The other thing I think that we can do is just find little ways that we can try to reduce our own impact. You can't do it all at once. If you really stop and look at how ingrained plastic is in our daily lives, you're not going to be able to completely quit plastic. That's an impossibility at this point. But there are little things that we can do that you can talk with people about that can try to help reduce how much you're putting out there. Reusable grocery bags, reusable cups if you can, because it's going to be a long thing to try to fix. But if we can start small, then we can start to see that grow as it becomes more of a norm.
Thank you for the information. I think that people will be interested in hearing this, and they can take something from this and share it with others.
Absolutely.
All right, you heard it, people. I will see you in the next interview, and bye. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm here at another interview with my teacher, Miss Jack.
And I am Ms. Jack. I have a bachelor's in science with a specialization in geology. I have a master's of science in geology and a master's of education with a specializing in science education.
Awesome. So today I'm going to be asking you some questions related to plastic pollution. And yeah, let's get started. What is your reaction to hearing about the size and impact of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch?
When I first heard about it, I thought it was a shame, number one, that this thing exists, and number two, of how large it is. And I was just reading a little bit more about it, and that the oldest piece of trash they found so far in it is from 1977, which is only a year after I was born. So that's about 48 years that this patch has been in there. So
That's that
old.
old. Do you think that, a little bit of a side question, but do you think that it could have also been before you were born?
Yeah,
they
for
could-
sure. And people are still throwing trash into the ocean.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, for our second question, in your opinion, what are the most effective ways to reduce plastic pollution in our daily lives?
I think that we should vote with our dollar and buy things that are not made of plastic, don't have microplastic in them. And that's one of the biggest ways we can reduce our plastic use. Buy stuff from companies that use recyclable packaging. Also, the other thing is just being educated, because if you're educated about something, you'll understand it and then be more likely to not do those habits like buy single-use plastic water bottles or use products like, especially beauty products, that have those microplastics in them. So education and then voting with your dollar.
What would you say to someone who doesn't believe plastic pollution is a serious issue?
And so there's plastic, and it has permeated every single part of our biosphere and atmosphere. And then, because that's not enough, you have to show them what the effects of that having that plastic is on human life and on other life.
How can schools and communities better educate people about the dangers of plastic waste?
I think that is probably a community sort of, I don't know if schools are going to teach that, but communities can definitely teach that by raising awareness and by supporting recycling programs, or programs where people can get reusable bags, or programs that support stores that offer like stuff that's sold in bulk or sold in paper, things like that. So communities can do a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
What role should governments and corporations play in limiting plastic production and improving waste management?
Well, here's the interesting thing is that government can do a lot because over in Europe, if you make the plastic, you are responsible for recycling that plastic. Like it's the whole cost of that start to finish, like the product life cycle is included. And I think that if we tried to do that here, there'd be a lot of blowback, but that is what we need to do. Government needs to make some regulations against people being able to make plastic and not be responsible for getting it back and either disposing of it properly or recycling it. Yeah.
Okay. How do you think individuals can help spread awareness about plastic pollution and its impact on marine life?
I think that really just talking to people and being like, hey, what are you going to do with that? Do you really need that single-use plastic or whatever it is? And how do you know where your waste is going? It's education about not only what the plastic is, but what is happening to our waste stream. What are we putting down our wastewater, and where's our garbage going?
What alternative materials or practices would you like to see replace single-use plastics?
I would really like to see go back to when I was younger. It was highly unlikely that you were going to buy everything in plastic packaging. It was cardboard, or it was metal, or it was just you just took it like when you go get a tomato, you don't put it in a plastic bag and then bring it home. I would like to see some sort of awareness by grocery stores that we don't need that offered. Basically, it's an anti-consumerism approach. Also, it's like we don't need all the stuff. You don't need all that stuff. You don't need to be buying things that are basically producing plastic when they're being manufactured, and then when you're buying them, they are plastic and you have to dispose of them. It's a mindset where you can buy things, reuse the container that you bought it in, go back to the store and get more. So it's a change it has to be a worldview change. Yeah.
Stay educated on plastic pollution, and it's important to spread awareness about it.